one of my coaches pointed out, like, Phil, like, you've got a big chest, use it. Like, you're a big boy. And then like a tear ran down my face because I have really low self-esteem about myself. So being called a good boy or a big boy like really warms my heart. It's just part of who I am. So it made me feel really good about myself. All right, welcome back to episode 2 of my prep for 2025 WRPF Nationals being held this year in Burlington, Ontario at Apex Barbell, a gym I'm very familiar with. I've competed there every year since I started competing. And originally, I wasn't going to compete there this year because I didn't think I would qualify for nationals. So I had planned on doing something else, which I think is a conversation in and of itself, that it's important to break out of your routine and get out of your comfort zone and go somewhere else. And I may cover that in a different video. It's a much deeper topic and a deeper dive into the psychology of the whole thing, but I'm not going to get into that here because this is the vlog portion of this about my prep for nationals. Going into week 2 of my training, 12 weeks out from nationals. So week 1, I was 13 weeks out. And it's always interesting talking to different people in the sport because people that may not be in the sport that much will ask you, how training's going, what week are you in, that sort of thing. But generally, when you're talking to fellow competitors, it's how many weeks out are you? So I'm always kind of going back and forth on how I explain it. So for all intents and purposes, I'm going into 12 weeks out in this video from nationals, which is weird as well. And I touched on this last week that it's my longest ever prep. I've not prepped this long for a competition. So, well, at least not seriously. My first year, I did only 2 competitions. I did one in May and then one in November. So I'm going to kind of watch that though, because it was my first year and a lot of learning. And this year, still some learning my body a little bit better now that I'm a little bit bigger, learning, having to relearn movements. That was really the case this week, especially on deadlifts. And I'll touch on that when I get to the deadlift portion. But we're going to start with day 1 right at the beginning. And I started with squats again this week. And squats, since I've been powerlifting, have quickly become one of my favorite lifts. They used to be the lift I hated the most, and now they've become one of my favorites, which is great because it's probably one of my best. If I look at how I'm put together and how I perform, it's usually squat, bench, or 1 and 2, and then deadlift. Like deadlift of the 3 is not my strongest one, but that's just the nature of the beast. There's always going to be one. Some people will have a monster deadlift but can't squat. I feel like I'm going to be the flip side where I'll have a really good squat, but probably not have a great deadlift. I just have to have an okay deadlift. So we started with squats this week, and I was doing 2 sets of 5 at 475. So in comparison, if we look at the week prior, I did 2 sets at 5 for an RPE 7, and I got up to 465. So this week, the weight was set at 455 to 475, and I figured I could do 475 and call it a day instead of having to do 455. And had a bit of an issue. I did the sets fine. I did everything okay, but I've had a lingering problem with my psoas muscle from my back to the front down into my hip and groin area. And it's been a lingering problem for years. And it mostly stems from having such a sedentary job as my 9 to 5, because I'm typically sitting and doing the radio thing and not very conscious of getting up and stretching. Even though I tell myself I have to, I've started to set alarms to try to fix it, but I'm not very good at remembering to do it. So it flares up every now and then. I can't figure out why it flares up at certain times. Like last week, I had no issues doing the whole squat routine. No problem. This week, I got through my second set and it was just a burning sensation all the way through. I unracked for pause squats, and pause squats were going to be 402 for 3 sets of 3, so not a lot. And I thought, okay, I can get through this. I unracked on my first set and I just went, no. I could feel it all down in my soul. I could feel it, but I could mostly feel it in that area in my hip and in my low back. So in the evolved version of me, in trying to play it smarter, I messaged my coaches and said, this is what I'm feeling. I didn't do my pause squat. I didn't do my other squat accessory, which is a SSB front foot elevated split squat. There's a whole bunch of acronyms in my program that half the time I'm like, SSBFFES. What is this? What, I don't understand. But that's why you ask questions and you get answers. So I didn't do my accessories for my squats because I just thought, nope. But I did do my lying leg curls, and this is how I know that it's part of that muscle, because the lying leg curls, I did 3 sets of 25, and it immediately alleviated a lot of the pain, a bunch of it. And I've had this before, especially with deadlifts, and I'll do lying leg curls as a warm up for my deadlifts to get my hamstrings stretched and warmed up, and I feel way better going into it because there's a lot of connection that way between your low back and your hamstrings. And I have really tight hamstrings. I do not have a great range of motion with them, which is something we're trying to work on, not just for powerlifting, but also for strongman, because I just need them to be longer to do a bunch of things. So that was squats. I felt good hitting the 475 for the 2 sets of 5. I didn't feel good physically about it, but I felt good mentally that I was still able to do it and mostly able to follow my cues. So we moved on to day 2, and this is in chasing a bigger bench because now I'm becoming more and more confident with my bench press. It's one that I want to attack more to see where I can get it to go to. Now, I used to, when I first started lifting, I benched very narrow grip because I had strong triceps and was always afraid of my shoulders. So I naturally started, I say naturally, but like I forced myself to do it, to bench more close grip. And I remember vividly doing a prep for an early show before I had a coach, and the program I was following was free, and it said close grip. And I brought my hands in like to here, and I was like, why does this feel weird? And the people I was training with were like, that's because you already bench close grip. This isn't close grip, my man. Like, you're already there. And then last year, when I was prepping for Apex's lift miss, one of my coaches pointed out, like, Phil, like, you've got a big chest. Use it. Like, you're a big boy. And then like a tear ran down my face because I have really low self-esteem about myself. So being called a good boy or a big boy like really warms my heart. It's just part of who I am. So it made me feel really good about myself. But she was right, because I moved my hands out. We found a good position for it. And I'm able to really get into and bring my chest up to the bar and use all that power to go through the whole rep. So utilizing that on top of the overhead power that I developed through strongman has drastically shot my bench press up. So right now we're working into comp benches. So I had 4 sets of 3 with a 2 board press, and luckily I had Megan there helping me this week. She's training for her own competition. She's doing the one that I backed out of, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm super excited to see what she does on the platform. She's built like an Amazon. Like, she's tall, she's strong, she's sturdy. She's going to put on a show. So having her there to help spot me was a lot of fun. And I think too, it's important to note that even on weights for bench press that you're good to unrack on your own, it's always good to have somebody help you with the handoff, because you can just get into such a better position with it when you're not having to do the unrack yourself, even if it's on lighter weight. If you have the option, take it. Obviously not always an option. When I train during the day, it's not usually an option either, just because of the time of day that I do train. So 4 sets of 3, 341 pounds. The week prior was an RPE set, 4 sets of 3, and I got to 330. So this week we did 341. Did all 4 sets of 3, and they felt really good. I kind of screwed up, and I'm going to show this now. I kind of screwed up on my second set. I let the board sink into my chest. I was almost absorbing it and bouncing out of it, which is completely contradictory to how I actually bench. I'm a very strict bench presser. I like a soft touch. I like to keep the tension all the way down, almost like it's a tempo down, and really extend my chest and bring tension into my shoulders, behind my back, into my chest, and into my shoulder, and into my the front part of my shoulders. And then as soon as I do that soft touch and I get the press command, I can really explode out of it like a an elastic band. So using the two board press and having it sink into my chest was super contradictory to anything I've ever done. And my coaches pointed out to me that that's what I did wrong. So on my last set, I focused more on, okay, how would I do this if it was just a naked bar? And I let it touch and then came out of it. And the last set was way better. And then we did Larson presses, again, AMRAP this week at 242. Last week was 225. I did 11, 8, and 7. And the same thing happened this week that happened last week. And I'll just keep saying it every time I have to do it. That I got to a point where the body just says no. I feel really good. And then all of a sudden it's like, nope, we're done. And you're like, all right, I guess that's the end of that. And this is where having somebody with you is super helpful, because having Megan there to spot me in case I didn't get that last one up is big. Just mentally, even for me. So we moved on to day 3, which was deadlifts, and this has been the struggle for me. I try really hard to maintain how I deadlift in strongman with how I deadlift in powerlifting, because in strongman, it's by any means necessary. You can hitch, you can ramp, you can jerk it, you can, jiggle it, jaggle it, jerk it. If it doesn't come, then you have to jerk it twice. But you can set it on your knees and pull it up your legs like Rob Kearney does. But I try super hard to not fall into those, because I go back to powerlifting, and powerlifting, you'll get called on those. And I don't want to pick up those habits, then jump to powerlifting and have to work them out of my system. Well, you know what they say about best laid plans is I picked up all those stupid bad habits this summer, and now I'm trying to work the kinks out. And it was super frustrating and a little disheartening. So this week, I started with slow to knee deadlifts, which are a lot of fun, I guess. 385 just for 3 singles. I think it felt like a really good warm up to do them. Super, super slow to my knee and then explode through. And then 3 sets of 3 at an RPE 8. And I had originally told myself anything north of 520 I would consider a win. I only got 518, and that was the right call. That was, my one coach always says, you don't find the RPE, it finds you. So the RPE 8, 518. And my Soyaz didn't bother me, which was great news. But mentally it sucked, because I know I'm better than this. And I know I can deadlift properly and do better. So the one thing that I picked up as a bad habit that I needed to work out is taking the slack out of the bar. And what I mean by that is when you get down there and grab the bar, you want to pull, because there's a little bit of space between the hole. If I look at my, figure out how I'm doing this, the hole where the weight goes, and then and then where the bar goes in, there's a little bit of space there because it's not 100% sealed. So when we say pull the slack out of the bar, you want to pull up on the bar against the weight plates so that it's touching and it's firm. Now there's no slack. There's no jiggle, jaggle, nothing. I have a bad habit of getting set, getting down, grabbing the bar, and then pulling the slack as I'm pulling the weight and making it harder on myself. Pulling out the slack isn't part of my setup routine, and it needs to be. I need to work that into my setup is shoulders, lats, bend the bar, pull the slack, and then go. And on the last rep of the last set, I did it. I did it all at once. I got down, I got set, I pulled the slack, took that half second, and then pulled the bar off the ground. And it was a slow rep, but it was my cleanest rep. And it was the best looking rep I had done all day. So I know it's there and I know I can do it. I haven't looked ahead to see what this week's deadlifts are calling for. But again, it's one that, and this is where doing it in your warm up is super important, because you need to do in your warm up what you're going to do at max capacity. Otherwise, what's the point of doing the warm up? Go through it all, go through the motion, pull the slack, do whatever it is you need to do that you're going to do on the max weight so that it all flows. So that was deadlifts. Again, it was fine. I felt good afterwards. I wasn't in pain. My soyas didn't act up, and that was good. So then we finished off the week with a secondary pressing day. We did some 3-count pause comp presses, 3 sets of 3, RPE 7. I got to 315. This is another one I told myself if I get north of 320, I'll be happy, but 315 was the number, which was the right call. The 3-count pause is important because it's a good way to build tension and work on your pause. Also, you don't know who you're going to get as a judge. Some judges will make you count 3 seconds before they give you a press command. We don't like those judges. I don't want a fast count. I don't want a fast press because I don't want to hear any gimmies. And I have this same argument about my squat. I've heard people say, well, if you shaved a little bit off of your squat, you could probably do a little bit more. Yeah, probably. But I also don't want two things. One, I don't want to leave it in the judge's hands for them to go, was it high? Was it not high? And two, I don't want to hear anybody running their mouth on social media being like, oh, he squats high. I'd rather just squat as deep as I possibly can and go from there. Sue me. And it's the same with my squat setup. I've had people yap me and feed me yappuccinos because they're like, oh, you don't squat 700 pounds and you don't bench 500. Why are you going with the racks in? And if you look at my squat, the racks are in this way and my hands are on the outside. They're like, you're just fat and lazy with poor mobility. Like, yeah, I am. What do you want from me? It's more comfortable for me. It's where I'm comfortable squatting from. And guess what? I've hit PRs doing it. I'm not in pain doing it, and I enjoy doing it. So you know what? Bite me. How's that sound? Too many professional coaches out there telling people how they should and shouldn't do things when we're all built differently and need to just kind of conform to what our body wants us to do. That's a different argument for another time. I'm going to trigger certain people saying that, but guess what? I don't care. So 3-count the tangents tonight are unhinged. I'm going to start another channel where I just go on these unhinged tangents because it's not what I want this channel to be. 3-count pause was great. 315, 3 sets of 3. And then I just finished off with some accessories. So going into the week, 12 weeks out, feeling good, feeling really good. I've honed in my diet. I've sat down, crunched the numbers. I'll do that in a different video where I talk about what I'm eating right now, what my macros are. And I would love to get feedback from some people on that because it's one that I've always kind of eyeballed and kind of guessed at. And it's always kind of sort of worked for me, but maybe I'm not optimized on that. And I know I just ran my mouth about too many professionals out there telling people how they should and shouldn't do things. And, I might start crowdsourcing for ideas on how to do meal plans. I'm contradictory. What do you want from me? I have a very smooth, small brain. There's not a lot of wrinkles up in this thing. But 11 weeks out will be next week. I get to train with a good friend of mine, Paul Longboat, on day 1. He's prepping for Strongman Nationals, one of the strongest guys I know. He's a master of the sandbags. So I'm excited to see what he brings to our local gym because he'll be passing through. I'm excited for that next week, and I'm excited to see what next week brings as we get closer to. But all in all, 2 weeks down, 11 weeks to go, and I feel pretty good. I feel good, and this is the mental health portion of this program. Mentally, I feel much better. I feel much better than I did last week, and I know next week I'm going to feel better, and I know I'm going to have down weeks in there eventually. Probably when I'm 6-7 weeks out, I'll start to have those down weeks. I mean, it may happen before too, I don't know. I just know me typically through prep that's when it happens. So I'm trying to prepare myself for those. You can't really ever prepare for them, but I will be okay. And you know what? You're going to be okay too. I believe in you. I know you're going to be okay. Stay strong, everybody. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I really appreciate it. I think I've got 30 something subs right now, and I'm happy with that. If I get more, cool. If I lose some, understandable. I appreciate any support, any feedback. You guys are awesome. Thanks as always. Stay strong, and I'll catch you next week.